Hi, and welcome to Policy Unpacked, a podcast by Global Policy Network. In this series, we dive into the policies shaping our world, from healthcare to sustainability to education, and we explore how these critical areas intersect to drive meaningful change. Whether you're a policymaker, a practitioner, or just policy curious, we're glad you're here. Let's unpack policy together. My name is Ameneh Ghazal Saatchi. I'm the founder and CEO of Global Policy Network. Today, I'm with two of our GPN family, Maya, Asher-Jones and Francis Tettechu. Maya is working on Policy Unpacked. She's our podcast lead and usually behind the camera. And now we're so pleased to have her in front of the mic, sharing her insights with us today. Maya comes with a bachelor's in politics and international relations and a master's in international journalism from Cardiff University. Maya brings a strong foundation to leading the team behind this podcast. She started at GPN as a trainee and has almost completed her fellowship, and has been a great example of the growth that's possible at GPN, and we're so proud of her. Francis is a medical laboratory scientist. He leads the social media team at GPN and was the first in our cohort to finish the fellowship scheme. Francis has a strong passion for health policy, and Global Policy Network provides the ideal platform for him to contribute meaningfully while building on his interests. He holds a degree in medical laboratory technology from the University of Cape Coast in Ghana, which has brought a great technical point of view to our social media team, and we're so proud to have him. It's great to have you both on Policy Unpacked. Welcome. Francis, can you talk us through your journey to becoming a medical laboratory scientist? What first drew you to this space, and how does it apply to your work at Global Policy Network?
Growing up, way back in basic school, I realized I was good with biology and chemistry, but not good in math. So I wanted to also work in the health sector. So after some level of deep in thinking, I decided let me go into an area in health that will not involve much calculation. And I must add that going to read science, some of my teachers objected to it because they said I was not good in the mathematics, so it would make me really struggle. But I also insisted because I really wanted to do something related to health. And in our part of the world, if you want to go into the health space, then right from your school days, you read the sciences. So I insisted, and then I moved on and read the science. It wasn't easy with the calculations, but I managed to still do at the secondary school level. Then graduated to the university. And as you cannot imagine, anytime we do something related to calculations, I struggle a bit, but I managed to still do that one also. Then graduated. After internship, I worked in other laboratories, both private and public. And now I'm employed with the Ghana Health Service, that's another Ministry of Health, working in the church facility. So over here, we call it CHAG, Christian Health Association of Ghana. It's a church establishment of and then managing it together with the government. So that's what I do now. And after working, coming to the lab from my school days to graduating and then going through internship and being employed, I realized all the work we do in the lab in some way, even though helps patients, but at the higher level, the policies up there affect what we do in the lab and how it impacts on the patient's life. So you can do your best in the lab, but if the policies are not rightly aligned, the impact on the patient may not be as expected. So I started thinking through, and then I realized even in the lab, we have a lot of data, work with a lot of patient data. We have all the patient records. So as I think of how to use those records to influence policy decision and impact patient life as expected. So that's how I started researching, and then I realized, okay, then I can do something related to policy, health policy advocacy. And then I chanced on GPN on social media, and then I hooked on board.
Well done, Francis, and so good of you to carry on persevering despite all the difficulties that you had with maths. So well done. And Maya, can you tell us about your background and how you found yourself leading the Policy Unpacked podcast?
Yeah, so when I finished university, I was like, oh no, what's next? What do I do? And I kind of stumbled upon GPN like on my LinkedIn, and I thought, wow, like this sounds like GPN is really making change in the world, and it's a really good way to influence change. So I applied, and here we are today. I had a phone call with you, and you kind of persuaded me to join.
And I'm so glad that you did. I mean, look at us now. We have Policy Unpacked. How exciting. And it's so nice to see you putting your vision and your inspiration into practice, because it was your idea to have a podcast. So well done, you. And for both of you, what inspired your interest in health policy advocacy, and what ways have your academic or professional experiences shaped your perspectives?
Like I mentioned earlier, it's all about the experiences in the lab, working in the lab. I realized that there is more we can do for our patients. So, in a way, if we don't have the right policies, that would be a major hindrance. I decided if that's the case, then as I'm working in a lab, I have the field or the real experience about how the various policies are impacting us. So why don't I now take the opportunity and step in and also use my experiences, my knowledge in the lab, which helps shape the policies. So I realized that if you come to policy, you can take it from various angles. So we have people engage in policy in diverse ways. Some engage in policy related to the environment, some related to education. But I decided since I'm in the health sector, and if I'm doing policy, then I should focus on the health sector.
Absolutely. And you've been actively supporting our medicines policy series that's been in the UK, and we're now launching it in Nigeria. And I've seen you kind of contributing your own perspectives about your own academic and both professional work as well, which is really, really interesting to hear. And Maya, let's go to you. So what inspired your interest in just health policy advocacy?
So both of my parents come from like medical backgrounds. My mum was a nurse. She was a nurse practitioner for like 30, 40 years. And my dad is a hematologist. So like I feel like the healthcare space is kind of like natural to me, since both of my parents come from that background. But growing up, both of them always said to me, never work in the NHS. And I kind of took that to heart, and I was like thinking about it. I was like, why do they not want me to work in the NHS? And at GPN, I've kind of learned like all of the intricacies and like all of the things that they were talking about throughout my whole life, and like how they come into play, specifically recently in the 10-year plan.
Absolutely. And it must be interesting for you to take some of this back to your parents as to how you're kind of at the forefront now of bringing together healthcare leaders and experts to discuss the NHS and the way forward, and hopefully produce key insights on how to fix some of the problems.
Yeah,
So, Francis, what initially attracted you to Global Policy Network, and how has the fellowship influenced your understanding of global health policy and your future career goals?
When I realized I wanted to do something related to policy advocate, I was thinking of either joining a local think tank back in my country, either as a volunteer or in whichever way, just to get some kind of exposure and hand-on experience in how the think tank and advocacy job really looks like. Or I further my education and do something related to health policy or health administration, that kind of thing. That will give me the opportunity to kind of begin to work into the health policy space. So in that moment, thinking about it too, then I happened to chance on GPN on social media. I think I saw your message in a group. I analyzed what you put there, and I realized it really falls in line with my own personal ambitions and relations. And what really made me decide to join GPN in particular was, I think I've even discussed that with you before, was your interest in selecting or working with people who have no experience in the policy space. Because I was thinking, I was even asking you that we have a lot of big fishes out there. When we talk of policy, we have people who are experienced in the field. Why do you want to work with some of us who don't have any experience? So that was what really attracted me to join DPN, that I'll have the chance to learn on the job.
Thank you so much, Francis. Amaya, you've grown within GPN, starting from a trainee, and now you're a fellow, almost finishing your fellowship. and a department lead. How has this journey shaped your leadership style, and what are some key lessons you have learned along the way?
Yeah, so I think starting at GPN as a trainee really kind of influenced my style. When I first started, I kind of started thinking about, well, what did people tell me and what did they not tell me? Um, and that's a really big thing, I think, being informed about what you're doing. So that has definitely influenced the way that I lead, particularly since I think actually I might overgive information at this point. I think everyone needs to be very well informed of what they're talking about. I also kind of like to lead with kindness, which sounds very silly in a way, but I think it's very important for people to kind of hold space for other people's time, if that makes sense. We don't want to be wasting each other's time. We kind of want to be doing things on time, but we also need to make sure that people have like commitments and things that they need to do. So it's kind of like a bit of kindness that we need to lead with when it comes to things like that.
And I think that's really important. Kindness and leadership is fantastic, and it's so important to ensure that you bring people along with you, and getting that balance right. I bet it can be hard. Francis, what strategies have helped you expand your professional network and build credibility in both your field and your work at GPN?
I say, let me start by this. Naturally, I'm not the outgoing type, a bit reserved. So you won't see me out there trying to connect a lot of the time. But one key strategy I have adopted is that whenever I come into contact with somebody, I do my best to kind of leave a good impression or leave a good mark.
And that's a really lovely example. Thank you for sharing that with us. And Francis, you always demonstrate politeness, professionalism, and it's lovely to see you coming. You started off as a trainee, and now as a lead, I see you very active in all the different meetings and really engaged with the policy, which is really lovely to see, and in sharing your ideas. So I'm glad to see you kind of, developing the network internally at GPN as well. It's fantastic. Francis, at GPN, as you know, we're so committed to working globally. We have a roundtable coming up soon, actually just next week. It's happening on the supply chain in Nigeria. And we have partners all around the world as well. So, if we're thinking about Ghana, where you are from, if you could change one thing in Ghana's health system today, what would it be and why?
Actually, there are a lot of things that ought to change in our health system. But if I should pick up just one, let me be very sincere. With my background as a lab scientist, working in the lab, I would definitely go for reforms related to lab. So right now, I'm looking at ways that in our health system, we can be able to properly adopt point of care testing. You know, in our part of the world, in our part of the country, the development infrastructure is not there. So people are living in communities that are isolated. Getting access to the big facility is not there. And getting the chance or having professionals over there who may be able to run lab tests to diagnose their conditions is also not there. Sometimes even put professionals there and then they will not go. But you realize as we go into all these little villages and isolated communities, we have local people who either are from there or have been trained and then they are working in their various chip compounds and much more helpful. So I believe if we can get basic point of care testing kits that are well standardized, well calibrated, give accurate results, and then we deploy them effectively to all these countries, it will help in diagnosing some basic local conditions that will enable the health professionals there to give accurate medical treatment.
And I absolutely love what you said. If there's any policymakers listening in from Ghana, please do take action on this. Point of care testing is so important, and you're right, it empowers patients, it gives access to healthcare in remote and hard to reach areas. And also it's faster and ensures patients get access to care much sooner, diagnosed sooner. So I think we need to hopefully get you to write this up into a blog. So Maya, over to you. So looking at the UK, what's one policy change you'd prioritise when it comes to the health system?
Yeah, so speaking as someone who does not work in the health system at all, I think listening to people on the podcast before has been really informative for this kind of thing. Particularly, I think I kind of touched upon it earlier, but like universal health records would be at the top of a priority list, especially I think Minesh on our last episode was talking about it. He was talking about how why can't we go into like a GP, a pharmacist, an optician, wherever, and they have your records right in front of you? Why do I have to repeat myself so many times when we're talking about like medical care and things that I've gotten? I think that's actually very important because maybe things are being missed, maybe anything could happen in those times that people have to recall information. So why aren't these records kind of universalized and everyone gets to see them?
Absolutely, and again, another shout out to policymakers listening in. We need further action on this. So well done, Maya. And let's talk about your fellowship a little bit. So, Maya, one of the standout features of the GPN fellowship is its expert-led training. Was there a particular expert or session that you learned the most from in your fellowship?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I think Stephen Riley, when he came and presented to us some of the kind of like facets of the 10-year plan and things like that, I think that was very, very interesting. He kind of gave us all a perspective that we had no idea about before, some of us, particularly since GPN is so global. Some people didn't necessarily know about the UK health system, and it was very, very informative in that way.
And Francis, what initiatives or projects did you apply your skills to during the fellowship? And how did those experiences help you to grow?
One that I remember particularly very well is, and I think that was even led by Maya. We had to, at first, we're posting on our social media pages one post a day, and we now decided we need to increase it or even more a day, which meant that we had to designing more posts, creating more posts for the social media. And at that time, as we all know, I was not even involved in the designing or the creation of the post. I was just focusing on the posting. And it happened that I would not have to be involved in making the post, designing on Canva and everything. At first, it was a bit challenging because I didn't know much about how to navigate my way through Canva. But it was really tough. But because of the task we had to make more posts, I applied myself to it, and then in no time, I was able to create posts that were far, far, far better than when I started. So that's one way GPN has been able to help me to develop my skills.
Maya, how does it feel for you to see the journey that Francis has been through? Because you two have been working so closely together now for several months.
Yes, we both started off as trainees in the social media team. And I was helping lead the social media team for a bit, and I remember when Francis started making posts, and he's come such a long way making the posts. He makes some of the best posts that we make now. So congratulations, Francis. He's really great at what he does.
And it's amazing to see that journey, and it's lovely to see both of you growing, and also that friendship as well that's built, that trust. It's wonderful. And Maya, how did your mentor help guide you through your fellowship experience? Did any advice particularly stick with you?
Yeah, I think Ameneh, you were kind of my mentor at GPN. So like every single week you were giving me a new piece of advice about leadership, which was very wanted because I did not know anything about leadership. I was more of a practical person. I knew how to do the things practically, but not necessarily implement them in leadership. So I think the way that you've taught me how to like structure my team, how to talk to my team, how to deal with them, and again, a very kind way, has really stuck out to me.
I'm glad. And Francis, what part of the fellowship would you recommend to future applicants?
I would recommend that, especially about the policy department. We have these guys in GPN who are working on the real policy issues. They, for instance, those working on UK policy and then those working on the Nigeria policy, they help in arranging or how do I put it? They help in organizing all our roundtable discussions. So I would strongly recommend that whoever wants to learn something about policy advocacy and real think tank work should get on board. Those guys will have the chance to get into contact or meet all the experts that are coming on board. And to me, it's a big plus. Some people that you never meet, you never have the chance to meet them in your life.
And Maya, tell me about someone who inspired you.
Oh, in general, I've got to say my mom. I know this sounds a bit sad, but I have to say my mom. I think she's been a really inspirational person. I think she came to the UK when she was 12. She was a refugee from Uganda in like the 70s. A lot of like Ugandan Asian people came over to the UK. I made a whole film about this as part of my dissertation, so if anyone wants to check that out, that's on my LinkedIn. She's been very inspirational. She came to this country, she didn't know anyone, with the whole like school system and everything, and then she became a nurse like when she was very young, and she worked so hard for so long, and she got very high up in her career, and she was very inspiring to me.
Amazing. She sounds like an amazing person, and I'd love to see your documentary. That's amazing. A big shout out to Maya's mom. And Francis, over to you. What would you like your future career to look like?
For the future, let me say, from where I am now, working as a lab scientist and then trying to navigate my way into health policy advocacy, I'm looking at continuing my work in the lab to gather more information, gather more data, gather more insights to help shape the policies out there. So I'm not looking at maybe ditching or running away from the lab now, continue the lab, believing that will help me to get the real insights that will help in shaping the policies out there.
And I think what you're doing, it's testament to your love and passion for both laboratory sciences as well as policy, and bridging that, I think, is fantastic and can help a lot of people. I'd love to now ask Maya the same question. What would you like from your future career?
See, that's very hard. I've never known what I wanted for my career. Even every child has like a thing that they want to do when they're growing up. That was never my thing. I never knew what I wanted to do. All I knew that I wanted to do is something that I'm passionate about, and somewhere that I can make change. And I guess here at GPN is exactly what I can do. So, yeah.
We hope to have you doing more great stuff here. So both of you, one of you has to go first, but I'd love to hear from both of you, and I'd like you to know who you would love to hear on Policy Unpacked, either in a main series episode or on a bonus feature. So Francis, here's your shout out time. Who would you like to shout out to?
I would not like to mention a specific name, but I am looking up to hearing various perspectives from across the globe. I know we have somebody from US, that's Leslie. We've heard from others in the UK, we've heard from others in Nigeria. So I'm looking forward to hear from others also, so that we get to know how the health system is working in. I'm looking forward to hear from people even in the Caribbean, in the Scandinavian countries, other parts of Africa, especially the southern part of Africa and then the eastern part of Africa. I would like to hear somebody from those areas of the country share their perspective on health.
I think that's a really great idea, and a great idea for our next fellowship podcast. They can describe their health system to us. And Maya, over to you. Who would you love to hear on Policy Unpacked?
I think I would like to hear from someone who's directly involved in making policy. I think that would be very interesting. Maybe like someone like a policymaker, a civil servant, that kind of thing. I think that would be amazing.
Absolutely. So we've got two different individuals that we must get onto Policy Unpacked next. So unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. But before we go, is there anything either of you would like to add?
No, all I'd like to add is follow our social media.
Absolutely. So thank you both for coming on Policy Unpacked. It has been such a delight to see your journey through Global Policy Network and see your friendship as well. So for our listeners, remember to follow GPN on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook and TikTok, and feel free to drop us a message below. And to see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.